welcome sight. The clouds are rolling by. It's a breezy day, but here we are again anyway. Yes, we are back together once more. It is Sunday. It is English Addict, coming to you live from the birthplace of the English language, which just happens to be, oh my goodness, England. Oh, hi everybody, this is Mr. Duncan in England. How are you today? Are you okay? I hope so. Are you happy? That is a big question. I wonder how many times during your day you ask yourself, am I happy? Am I happy? How do I feel about my life? How do I feel about my general situation? How are things in my life? Can I say honestly that I'm happy? Maybe sometimes I'm not. Maybe sometimes there are things that are on my mind. Maybe sometimes there are things that might concern you. Perhaps sometimes something might come along and surprise you. Something you weren't expecting. Something that came out of the blue. Oh, I like that phrase. If something comes out of the blue, it means it comes by surprise. You were not expecting it. I suppose you might say it is the same as something coming out of the sky suddenly. Something you weren't expecting. And I suppose sometimes an event or situation you were not ready for might make you panic. And that is one of the things we are talking about today. We are talking about an emotion that I'm sure all of us, including me by the way, all of us has felt at some time in our lives. Panic is what we are talking about today. Mr. Steve will be here later. We have him, of course, he's here. Although he's out in the garden at the moment, you might have seen his head going by the camera. Did you see it at the start of today's live stream? So Mr. Steve is outside. Hopefully he will be back with us indoors right here. In fact, he will be standing there right next to me in a few moments from now, in around about 22 minutes. We have Mr. Steve here, and of course we have you as well. It's very nice to see you here. My name is Duncan. Can you see it? It is there, written on the screen, and I talk about the English language. I like English very much. You might even say that I am an English addict. I am addicted to the beautiful language that is English, and I have a feeling that you might be as well. Not too bad today. I feel okay. I'm quite excited about something. Details of that coming up in a few moments. But of course we have made it to the end of another weekend, and also we have a brand new month as well. Isn't it lovely? Isn't it nice to see a new month rising like the sun in the morning? Which leads me on to the thing that I want to tell you all about. Yes, it's Sunday. It is Sunday and we are back together again. Very nice to see you here. I am just going to assume that you are here. If you're not here, could you please hurry up? Because I've already started. But if you are now here, it is very nice to see you here. Unless you're not here. If you're not here, then I don't know what to think, to be honest. My mind has become blank. I have had no breakfast today. Again, I've been very naughty. This happens quite often. And I've forgotten my breakfast, even though right here in front of me, and despite the fact that I'm feeling very hungry, I have, look at that, I have some toast. And can you guess what I've got on my toast? What do you think I have on my toast? Oh, it smells very nice. It smells lovely. But what do I have on my toast? And I suppose another big question is, will I actually eat that thing during my live stream? Because I do get a lot of complaints from people saying, "Here, Mr. Duncan, we don't like it when you eat food during your live stream. We don't like it at all." But I am hungry. Please have some sympathy for me. Can I please eat my toast? What have I got on my toast? Can you guess? I wonder. Oh, very interesting. Yes, we have some correct answers straight away. Oh, very good. Well done. Very nice. Fancy pants. And of course we do have the live chat. Yes, it would not be English Addict without you here. And I suppose I should mention who was first on today's live chat. Oh, very interesting. We have a different person today. Now, Vitas, I have a feeling, Vitas, you need to give your finger a rest. You need to rest your finger. You need to give it some tender, loving care. Because today, first on the live chat, it is Olga. Well done. I have to be careful. I'm going to wear myself out before I've even started doing anything. So well done. Yes, you have guessed correctly. I have on my toast, I have some marmalade made with oranges, and I'm going to have a bite of my toast. I'm sorry. It's a bit like that ASMR. Have you seen that or heard of it? On YouTube, there are lots of people eating food very close to a microphone, and you can hear everything that is happening in their mouths. You can hear the chewing. You can hear the saliva being produced as they chomp into their food. Some people think it's very disgusting. Other people love it. They like the sound of someone chewing their food. They are busily masticating. What? Mr. Duncan, you can't say that word. No, I said masticating. Chewing. The word masticate means chew. You are... Oh my goodness. That is delicious. So well done, Olga. You are first on today's live chat. Well done to you. Yes, a lot of people said, yes, it is. It is. Marmalade, orange marmalade. It has a lovely taste. Not only that, but I need my energy today because I have not only my live stream today, but you may have seen on Friday, I popped up on Friday to tell you that I'm also doing some special live streams during October, which I will tell you about now. So during October, I will be with you from Monday to Friday. So please make a note of this, Monday to Friday. So that is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. From 2 p.m. UK time is when I'm with you. Yes, it's a special month of live streams because I'm celebrating my anniversary here on YouTube at the end of the month. So Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. UK time. They will be short live streams, so around about half an hour to 40 minutes. So they will be shorter than my usual live streams. So that is what I'm doing during October, every day from Monday to Friday. And of course, don't forget, I also will be with you at my usual time on Sunday at 2 p.m. UK time. So you're going to have me for 6 days a week during this month. 6 days a week. A reminder once again, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. UK time. And then, of course, on Sunday, I'm with you with my usual English Addict as well. So you have me 6 days a week during this month. And yes, I am celebrating my 15th year. 15 years on YouTube. What? How is that even possible? Even I don't believe it. I can't believe it. And I'm the person that's done it. I've been here for 15 years doing this. So 6 days a week, Monday to Friday, and also Sunday as well with my usual English Addict. So I hope you will join me for maybe all of them or some of them or maybe none of them. Maybe it's not your bag. Maybe it's not up your street. Maybe it is not your thing. We will see what happens anyway. It's going to be a busy month. I know that, definitely. So I was thinking on Friday, and you may have heard me mention this on Friday because I was with you live, and I mentioned the fact that maybe I should quit. Maybe at the end of this month I should stop doing this. Maybe 15 years is enough time. Maybe it's too much time. Perhaps some people might say, Mr. Duncan, why have you wasted 15 years of your life on YouTube? Well, as far as I'm concerned, it is not a waste of time. I don't think this is a waste of time. I like to think that I've helped lots of people with their English studies and also with their English listening. And I hope also along the way we have had some laughs, some smiles, maybe the occasional tear. But it raises a very interesting question. And this is a question I'm going to start off with today. When is the right time to say, that's it? When is the right time to quit doing something? And the reason why I'm mentioning this is for a slightly sad reason. Now, I am a big fan of music. You know that. I know that. I love music, especially from the 1980s, and there is one particular artist that I used to like listening to, not only in the 80s, but also in the 1970s. There was a group called Genesis. You may have heard of them. Over the years, they have changed their lineup, and we have the lead singer and also the drummer from Genesis. We are, of course, talking about Phil Collins. Phil Collins, of course, had a successful solo career. He went off on his own. He composed lots of different music. One of my favourite pieces of music is from the film Tarzan. And you'll be in my heart, and you'll be in my heart. I love that piece of music. It's nice. It's very nice, and it was written by Phil Collins. And they are now actually on tour again. Phil Collins and also the rest of Genesis are on tour. However, and this leads me to my question. I saw Phil Collins on television last week being interviewed, and I have to be honest with you, I was rather surprised at his appearance. I was really surprised to see how unwell and, dare I say, old Phil Collins looked. And there he is on your screen now. I was quite surprised. I was, in fact, shocked. And I couldn't stop thinking about it for days afterwards. So when is the right time to quit doing something? Sometimes you can do something for too long. You can go on for too long. Sometimes you have to know when to quit or when to stop. So maybe in the case of Phil Collins, maybe he just needs the money. I don't know. But he's not in very good health, and yet he's carrying on. He's performing. Sadly, he can't play the drums anymore. He used to be a drummer with Genesis. But now he has to sit in a chair whilst singing his hits with Genesis. And to be honest with you, I think that's a little bit sad. I feel a little upset seeing that actually happen. And you do get this sometimes. You do see artists, singers, performers who go on maybe a little bit too long. This is a conversation I've had with Steve in the past about Shirley Bassey, because as you know, we both love Shirley Bassey. But I was worried, especially about 7 or 8 years ago, when Shirley Bassey was still performing, but her voice was starting to become a little rough around the edges. So she wasn't performing as well as she used to. And I always feel a little sad, a little maybe disappointed even, to see someone carrying on doing the thing that they can no longer do very well, especially if you've been very successful. You've had a long career doing that thing. So that's the feeling I had last week when I saw Phil Collins from Genesis being interviewed last week. He was being talked to, and I was really shocked at his appearance. He looked dreadful. Clearly, he's suffering some sort of ill health, but I was really surprised and quite sad to see him in that state. But even more sad to see him actually carrying on performing. So, I don't know. I know it's a difficult question. I know it isn't easy to answer that question. But what about you? Is there someone, maybe someone famous, that you've seen and they're still doing the same thing? They're still trying to perform or do the thing that they are famous for. But unfortunately, the old age is starting to catch up with them. Of course, it can happen. You can carry on doing things into your old age. You don't have to stop. So I'm not being ageist. I'm not saying that you can't do things when you are older. But what I'm saying is sometimes you have to know when to stop, when to say, that's it, no more. And that's the question I asked last week on Friday. Should I quit? When do you quit? When do you stop doing the thing you love doing? Do you wait until you can't do it anymore? Or do you wait until your last breath leaves your body? I suppose one person that I'm always impressed by is Clint Eastwood, who actually has a new movie out at the moment. And he's directed and also starred in the movie. And he's 90. So I'm not saying that you should quit, but what I am saying is, when is the right time to stop doing it? Maybe your health starts to fail. Maybe you become unwell or frail, but maybe you want to carry on doing it. So that's just my feeling. I'm not picking on anyone. I'm not being rude or spiteful, but I sometimes think that I don't want to see people that I admire carrying on doing the thing that they love doing, but that they don't do it as well as they used to. And I have seen that happen. My example would be Shirley Bassey. I know I don't want to say anything bad about her because I love her and her music, but I felt a little sad when I saw her performing a couple of years ago. Very, very sad. You have to know when to stop. You have to know when to quit. So what about you? When is the right time to stop doing things? Christina. Thank you, Christina. It is important to be aware of your physical and mental limits and also the physical changes when you get older. And then you have to decide to stop doing things. I think so. Now, I do think about this sometimes because I'm not young. I'm getting older and I'm very aware of that, especially when people remind me. Oh, hello. Did you see the buzzard going by there? There was a buzzard flying just above my head there, going by. Mr. Buzzard going by. Very nice. So I'm not as young as I used to be. Sometimes my brain stops working, especially when I'm doing my live streams. Sometimes I can't remember a word. Sometimes I forget what to say. Sometimes I mispronounce words, or I get the wrong word. So when do you stop? Because that's what I've been thinking about. Especially around my birthday this year, I couldn't stop thinking about my age. I became a little bit obsessed by it. And of course, lots of questions pop in your head. You start to think, when am I going to quit? When am I going to stop doing this? Will I be here as a very old man, still teaching English and talking about the English language on my live streams when I'm 85? Can you imagine that? It might be more entertaining than it is now, to be honest. We have Mr. Steve coming very soon. Mayori, hello Mayori. Your health should always be the priority. I think so. So maybe if you are doing something that is actually causing you harm, maybe you are performing or doing things, and that thing actually is bad for your health. And of course, performing is stressful. Whether you are a singer or an actor, performing is stressful. Doing this is stressful. I will be honest with you. This is not easy. I make it look easy. I know what you're going to say, Mr. Duncan. You make that look so easy. Can I just say it isn't? It is not as easy as it looks. Hello, Bella. Nice to see you here, Bella. I feel as if it's been a long time since I've seen you, Bella. Hello, Bella. Welcome. It is not a waste of time. You are helping people, and that is so noble. Thank you. I'm not looking for compliments, but thank you anyway. I do appreciate that. The right moment to quit doing something is when you lose your passion. Yes. That is a very good point to make, Ricardo. Now, I know in my time doing this, I know I've had moments where I've felt as if I wanted to quit. Maybe I feel as if I'm not doing as well as I should. Or maybe I start to think that the things I do is pointless. The things are pointless. I think that. But then the next day I go, back up again. I think, okay, I feel much better about it. So I think it happens, especially when you're doing something for a long period of time. For example, maybe you've been making English lessons on YouTube for 15 years. So you are going to have moments where you feel as if you want to quit. But then, of course, you come to your senses and you realise, really, deep down, you love doing it. so you continue doing it. Fly Away says, I don't think Phil Collins needs money. I'm not sure about that because I think he's had at least 2 very expensive divorces. Now, I remember way back, I think it was in the late 1980s, Phil Collins had a very expensive divorce. So I think maybe sometimes a person has to carry on working because maybe they have to earn some more money after a divorce. Maybe the wife took half of your things, half of your earnings and your money and your house. So it can happen sometimes. Sometimes a divorce, especially if you are wealthy, can be rather damaging. I think so. I think everyone has their time according to their way of life. Thank you, Marcia. That's very kind of you to say. Oh, we have Luis Mendez is here today. Hello, Luis. Mr. Duncan, I did the same job for 33 years and some months, and I was always eager to start my working day. Yes, you might be very lucky in your life. You might have a job that you love doing. So when you wake up in the morning, you feel excited. You feel as if you can't wait to do your job. As far as I'm concerned, from my own point of view, I will carry on doing this for as long as I can, but also I will do this for as long as you want me to. So as long as you are there watching me, I will carry on doing it. And I certainly hope you are going to watch me during October, because I will be with you 6 days a week, Monday to Friday and also Sunday as well during October. And that is because of my 15th anniversary. We are talking about panic today. Panicking. Do you ever panic? We have been panicking here in the UK over one particular thing over the past few days. We will be talking about that in a few moments with Mr. Steve. Oh, Mr. Steve is on his way. But before then, we are going to take a look at an excerpt from one of my full English lessons. And this is an excerpt from Full English number 31. And then after that, he's here. He will be with us live in the studio. Mr. Steve is on his way. Hickory dickory dock, I'm holding one grey sock. In the other there are 2, and both of them are blue. Hickory dickory dock. Did you enjoy my little poem? Welcome everyone to another Full English video lesson coming to you from England, which happens to be the birthplace of Cadbury chocolate, Bakewell tart, Yorkshire pudding, and my favourite, Spotted Dick. And of course the English language, which is the reason we are all here today. So, take a deep breath, open a few windows, make a nice hot beverage, because today's Full English lesson is going to start right now. You may have noticed that I love English. Some of my favourite English words happen to be the smallest and the most commonly used. A good example is the word off. It seems like such a simple word, yet it is often used on a daily basis in so many ways. To cancel something can be described as being off. Sorry girls, the football match is off. You can call something off. We had to call off the outdoor concert because of the rain. To have a free day away from work can be described as being off. I won't see you tomorrow as it's my off day. You are having the day off. Another use of off day is when things keep going wrong or when your mood is not good during a certain period of time. Sorry for all the mistakes, guys. I'm having a bit of an off day. To make your way out of a place or to announce your departure, you can say that you are off. Okay, guys, it's 5 o'clock. See you tomorrow. I'm off. If something that is perishable has gone past its best, then we can say that it is off. Don't drink that milk. It's off. This salmon smells awful. I think it's off. If something has been disconnected from its power source, we can say that it is off. The TV isn't broken. It's off. Talking of which, I'm off over there. It's time to do the next sequence. It's strange how some words can find themselves together in English phrases. A good example of this is the phrase love-hate. These words have opposite meanings. However, they do go together as a description of a certain type of relationship. I am talking about a love-hate relationship. In society, a love-hate relationship describes a partnership that involves both fondness and hatred. A tumultuous or turbulent relationship between two people can be described as love-hate. We had a terrible fight last night, but today we made up and are having a meal together tonight. You might feel that this relationship is based on love-hate, especially if the arguments occur often. A long-term relationship might become unstable due to a hopeless feeling of routine and familiarity. The couple might become bitter and resentful, which results in the up and down nature of the relationship. A love-hate relationship can exist in other places. If you love your job but it does not pay very well, you might have a love-hate relationship with it. You might have a love-hate relationship with your boss. There are some good days and some bad. You have mixed feelings. You have the feeling of both love and hate. What do you want and what do you need? If you want too much, can we call this greed? Do you have more than you need, or is it enough? Perhaps you have nothing. Sometimes life can be tough. There is a fine difference between the things you want and the things you need. To want is to desire. It is an urge to satisfy that desire. To need is the instinctive response to nature's call for survival. It's the need to survive. What is necessary to survive is your need. The obvious things needed for survival are food and water. They are your basic needs. Without these, you will not survive for long. Of course, want can be classified as need too. However, we often see want as a more selfish emotion. I need food. I want a nice new car to show my neighbour. Furthermore, the dilemma of what money is creates quite a paradox. We need money to buy food, but we also want money to support a comfortable and some might say wasteful lifestyle. Want is often seen as a selfish emotion. Need comes from your basic necessities. Want comes from the things that will make you feel better as a person. Need comes from the basic survival instinct to make it through the day without starving to death. Need and want might have similar definitions, but they are often seen as belonging to very different urges. What is a split infinitive? Is it painful? Will it leave a scar? Well, first of all, having a split infinitive is not an injury, although it does sound like one. In English grammar, we name a certain grammar error as a split infinitive. An infinitive in English grammar is the use of the word to with a verb. While there are no grammar rules that prohibit split infinitives, many English experts strongly disapprove of them. An example of a split infinitive is the classic, to boldly go where no man has gone before. The word boldly and go should be the other way round. It should read, to go boldly where no man has gone before. In writing, this looks more dramatic, but when spoken, the split infinitive sounds better. So while the use of a split infinitive is technically incorrect, you might only find the most pedantic English teachers picking you up on it. To pick someone up on something is to correct them by pointing out their mistake. I really needed that toast. That was absolutely lovely. That was an excerpt from Full English number 31. Yes, we are here live from the birthplace of English, which just happens to be England. Hello. Here he is. Oh.
Hello. Hello, Mr. Duncan. Hello, lovely viewers, wonderful viewers from all around the world.
Mr. Steve.
I'm here, yes. Oh, we've got somebody new, Mr. Duncan.
New?
Yes. Teek Shah. Not sure if I've pronounced your name correctly, but Teek Shah is new and says hi to everyone,
hello,
including us.
Hello, Teek Shah.
Yes.
Welcome.
I know.
Welcome to my live stream, and I think that deserves a round of applause.
We always get very excited when we have new people watching that identify themselves on the live stream.
I always get excited if anyone is watching, if anyone is there.
Well, no, there is a point to that, Mr. Duncan. Saturino drives a truck.
Okay.
She has revealed as I was looking back at the live stream.
Saturino?
Wow. Yes. So
we need you.
We need you. Come to the UK.
Can you please come here?
And deliver some petrol to our petrol forecourts.
Why are you talking like that?
Talking like what?
Steve's going into his I'm talking you're come here. You're please.
Well, Mr. Duncan, I haven't spoken all day today. It takes me a while to warm up.
Okay.
My voice and speak in the correct manner.
It's a bit like when we go abroad. When Steve is talking to a local person, his English becomes very unusual. He starts to miss out all of the conjunctions. Me, hello, me, Steve, you, shop where?
It's true, I do tend to do that. It might be a little condescending, I don't know, but I just do it. I don't know why. But yes, we want truck drivers. So if you've got an HGV license, Saturino, you can probably earn $50,000 a year by coming here to the UK, and which would be wonderful for you to come here, of course, because we could meet you, and you could earn a huge wage driving HGV lorries around.
Can I ride in your lorry, and can I please sound the horn? I've never been in a truck. I've never been in a lorry. They look like quite exciting places to be. And you have a little bed above you at the back that you can have a little sleep. So you park your truck by the side of the road.
You've got to be careful where you park if you're a truck driver.
Yes, well, they are big.
No. Well, anyway, yes, there are other reasons for that.
Anyway, Steve.
Yes. Oh, you've been talking, haven't you, about quitting or no, passion.
Well, no.
Something.
When is the right time to quit?
Well,
was the question.
According to Pedro, you must never quit.
Me?
You must never quit, and you must continue doing the live stream until your very last breath.
Yes, well,
That's what Pedro told you to do.
that might happen. I've often had this nightmare lying in bed. I have nightmares about actually doing this, and then I die during the live stream. I actually drop dead.
Oh, we don't want that to happen, Mr. Duncan.
No.
That would be rather dramatic.
Well, for two reasons. One, it's dramatic, and also the other reason is I would be leaving Steve with the controls, and there's no way I'm doing that.
So have we got a defibrillator?
So you have to go
nearby?
first. That's what it means. Steve has to go first.
Let's just get this straight.
And then me.
None of us are going while we are live
No.
online. It's not happening.
That would also be very ironic
Would it?
to be live, but you die.
Well, I mean, many famous performers have died while they are live, television, things like that.
Yes.
And
Oh,
while
yes,
they've
it
been
did.
performing on stage.
You're right, yes. I think it was in 1984. We had a famous comedian. He died live on television.
Yes.
He was performing on stage and he died in front of the whole nation. Very unusual. So that might happen. But as long... What I want to make sure, though, I want this on record. Can I have my cause of death? YouTube.
I think we should stop talking about death.
No, I'm not talking about it. We're talking about when it's the right
Oh,
time.
I see. Right, yes.
It was Pedro that mentioned it. Pedro brought it up by saying your last breath. So I want my death certificate to have cause of death YouTube. I want to be the first person to officially be the cause of death to be being on YouTube.
Do you think the shortage of lorry drivers depends on Brexit, says Anna?
Oh,
Now, there's a controversial subject. Well, most people in this country think that Brexit hasn't caused the lorry driver shortage, because I think the shortage is all around Europe. But it's certainly contributed to it, because
Yes.
we seem to have far worse problems. I mean, we're not seeing people queuing outside petrol stations and panic buying in other parts of Europe. So I think we have got it worse, and probably, yes, it has had an effect. How much? It's difficult to measure.
It is actually a combination of things. So
Yes.
now we did not vote for Brexit. We voted to remain in Europe, because I thought, well, my thinking at the time was, what if something happened, something serious happened, that meant that we would all need to be together in some way? Maybe a war, or maybe some sort of, I don't know, epidemic. So that's the reason why I thought remaining in Europe was good, because of having that camaraderie, instead of causing disruption and also maybe a little bit of bad feeling as well. So,
Combination of events.
Yes.
Yes, people are commenting on my red Bic pen.
okay.
Wellington has commented and laughed about it. I think we do get comments from time to time. And Flower says that I'm correcting Mr. Duncan's mistakes. Yes, it's funny, isn't it? Because a red pen, obviously, in a lot of countries, is seen as something you would use to correct maybe bad writing or correct schoolwork.
You mean teachers?
Yes, teachers.
Or do you just mean people walk around correcting other people's mistakes with a red pen?
I just have a red pen because I think months and months ago, I wanted a pen to write things down that I see on the live stream. And the only pen that I grabbed at the last minute was this red one, and it's stayed here ever since.
I'm loving
so
this.
There's no reason.
I'm loving this story. It's a
Yes.
great story that you're giving. By the way, you look a bit scruffy today.
Scruffy?
Scruffy.
Well, you always wear the same tie every
Yes.
week.
Well, I think you should have a tie to look a little bit more formal. Here we go, Steve. So there is Mr. Steve's lovely tie. I'm putting it on.
Okay. Right, okay then. Does that look better?
That looks much better.
Well, at least put it behind the collar, Mr. Duncan. I mean, let's do it properly. Oh, yes, that does look quite nice, doesn't it? You're right.
Thank you.
Oh, look at that. Oh, yes.
That looks a bit more.
There we go. I'm formal and yet slightly relaxed because I've got it undone a little bit.
Yes, you've got it done and done.
I've got it. Yes, I haven't got it done right up,
No.
which would look very formal like you. I've got it. I've got it down. I've got a tie, but I'm relaxed.
Well, mine is,
bit like a pop singer.
mine is loose.
Yes, but it's fairly up to the neck.
Okay, if you say so.
Well, interesting. It's got little smiley faces on it.
Yes, and it also matches my badges. You see.
Oh yes. How clever.
Yeah.
Actually, I just suddenly feel more intelligent and more teacher-like. Yes, it's worked. Hello, everybody.
Okay, that's very erudite.
I'm going to teach you all about the English language today.
Hey, we are talking about something that a lot of people have been doing. Although, before we start talking about that subject, I need to say, whatever you do, don't panic. What? Mr. Steve, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Oh my God.
I think that's enough, Mr. Duncan.
That's enough.
What was that all about, by the way? Because I didn't know you were going to do that.
Well, good. Good.
By the way, kick the bucket is not rude, Nikita. If you kick the bucket, it's kick the bucket, not kick a bucket. Kick the bucket means you've died.
Yes, it's a sort of humorous way of saying that someone has died. They've kicked the bucket.
Bill has, or anyone with any name has kicked the bucket. It just means, you know.
I do wish you'd stop choosing names of people we know.
Well, the trouble is I could say any name and, you know, it would probably offend somebody.
Colin.
Yes, we don't know anyone called Colin.
I've never met anyone called Colin, ever. I've never met anyone called Colin or Archibald. I've never met anyone called Archibald any time ever in my life.
Speaking of panic, says Christina, have you seen what's happening in the Canary Islands with that volcano erupting?
Yeah, so we think we have problems here.
Yes.
But at least we don't have a giant volcano erupting lava.
We don't look out of the window and see this wall of lava coming towards us.
Yeah.
That must be... Oh, imagine that. You've got this beautiful home on the Canary Islands and suddenly it's gone. That must be heartbreaking.
Absolutely heartbreaking.
Absolutely heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
But why are you putting up a don't panic sign?
Because today we are talking about panic. Because here in the UK there has been a little bit of panic going on. You may have heard about it. There is we've already mentioned it briefly.
You've referred to it.
Yes. There is a shortage at the moment of petrol.
What? A shortage of petrol? Should I panic, Mr. Duncan?
No, don't panic.
I think, yes, everyone's heard of the UK's problems with a lack of fuel.
Thank you for shouting in my ear.
You normally deride me if I shout. Deride. That means that you sort of scold somebody or tell them off.
Yes. Good. Thank you for that explanation.
Well, it's an English teaching channel. We ought to explain words.
As you say, every single week.
Deride.
But there is a shortage at the moment of petrol. Because there is a shortage of lorry drivers to drive the trucks that deliver the petrol that goes in the pumps of the people who drive their cars. Oh, that was quite good.
Well, don't congratulate yourself. Well, yes, I know. Yes, well, it all started with somebody last week on the media saying...
On the media?
Yes, a news report saying that a few petrol stations had to close because they hadn't had a delivery of fuel from the refinery. So everybody, which is what we do in this country, of course, immediately the politicians say, oh, well, there's no need to panic, there's plenty of fuel. Now, when a politician says, don't panic, everybody just panics.
It's a very British thing to do.
Yes.
We never take anything calmly.
If a politician says, don't do something, it means we need to do it.
Yes. When COVID first started becoming a big thing, we kept being told, no, it's okay, just don't panic. Don't panic. And of course, people started panicking. They went to the shops and they went crazy because they thought everyone was going to have to stay in their houses forever. And so all of the food in the shops disappeared. People were buying bread and toilet paper
Raphael refers to that.
They didn't want to have a poopy bum. There's nothing worse than having coronavirus and a poopy bum at the same time. You don't want both of those things. So they were making sure that even if they were in bed feeling unwell, they would not have a poopy bum.
Well, there's ways of... Anyway, yes, so what we want to know, isn't it, Mr. Duncan, I say with my red pen, my teacher red pen, is that we want to know whether you have panic in your countries like this. Do you get this type of thing where people go out and panic buy things like fuel,
yes,
toilet paper? Because I'm not sure all countries were panic buying toilet paper, but do you ever get this? We get people panic buying bread, anything. Whenever there's any slight hint that there's a shortage of something, people go out and panic buy. So we want to know, do you experience this in your country where people go out and panic buy something?
Yes.
Because somebody says there might or might not be a shortage of something.
See, I think it does happen everywhere. I mean, the same thing happened in Australia, but at the moment, I'm not quite sure what's happening in Australia at the moment because it seems like martial law has taken over. I used to go to school with somebody called Martial Law. He was a very nice lad.
I'm sure that because of rising energy prices, gas.
Rising, are they? Are they
they're
rising?
They're going up.
No, not down, but up.
Well, it's all around the world. I think energy prices are going up. Particularly gas, it's gone up like 4 or 5 times, or
4 or
10
5
times, something like that.
Interesting.
And if people could panic buy gas,
how?
I know, if they could, they would be, storing it up in balloons or something to try and save money. But of course, you can't panic buy gas.
No. Or electricity.
And you can't store electricity unless you've got lots of big batteries.
Yes.
So that's the one thing that people can't panic buy.
No, that is true.
In your country,
what about love? Can you panic buy love?
Well, I mean, if you buy love, well, you can't really buy love, can you?
Yes, but you might panic buy love if you realise that you can't get any. You might go out looking for it with a handful of money. Come, somebody please love me. I've got some money here, and solid gold underpants.
Our country panic buys rice.
Oh.
In Sri Lanka, says Teek Shah. Right. Really? Oh, and we now know that you're from Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
Have we ever had anybody from Sri Lanka before?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, of course we have people from all over the world, but welcome.
Yes.
So, right, rice, of course. I wonder if... so that's what we want to know. Do you have panic buying in your country? And if so, what products do people panic buy?
Yes. I wonder what the strangest thing is that people panic buy. Of course, you might also have things like candles. If people believe that maybe their electricity supply will be cut. Yes. Maybe there is an energy crisis like we had in the 1970s. See, I remember growing up in the 70s and my family had to have candles in the house because quite often the electricity would just go off because there was a miners' strike taking place. There was no coal to power the power stations, and because of that there was no electricity. So quite often there would be power cuts over the whole country. And we would all be plunged into darkness during the night.
And I'm sure then people used to go out and stockpile candles. So they would buy huge amounts of candles because they think that, the power cuts are going to last for the next decade or something. You could cook on a candle, couldn't you? Might be a bit. Might take a long time to boil a kettle using a candle power.
Yes, it might.
Yeah, so people can panic buy all sorts of things. If the shops go out of stock as well, this wouldn't be panic buying. But if, for example, a celebrity chef has a program and they do a recipe containing something, then if it's an unusual ingredient, I think Mange 2, somebody famously did a recipe on television with Mange 2, which is sort of, it's pea pods, isn't it, Mange 2?
Don't ask me.
It's pea pods before the peas have grown. It's probably a specific plant, but people went out the next day and you couldn't get Mange 2 for weeks because everyone went out and purchased it because somebody on television put it in a recipe.
This is not the thing that many people would be rushing out to buy normally. Mange 2.
It's not a panic buy, but
excuse me, do you have any Mange 2 left? I need some Mange 2 because I saw Jamie Oliver last night. He was making something. He was saying, "Here, ladies, get yourself some nice Mange 2 tomorrow." That's Jamie Oliver, that is, because he spits all the time. I think a lot of the food that he makes ends up with a lot of his own saliva in the food.
Are you taking the mickey, Mr. Duncan, out of somebody who has a speech impediment?
He doesn't have a speech impediment. He just does it for attention.
I'm not sure about that, Mr. Duncan. Nitram says, I feel a love-hate vibe around Mr. Duncan and Mr. Steve's relationship today.
No? This is good. This is better than usual.
Yes.
Yes. We're normally beating the crap out of each other by now.
You're swearing, Mr. Duncan.
Oh, crap. It isn't. Everyone says crap. It's okay.
Yes, the butchers. Yes, Lewis. Saturino. Lewis Mendez now in UK. They have same problem for the butchers. Yes, apparently I read that this morning.
What, there's a shortage of butchers?
Shortage of butchers, yes.
There aren't enough people chopping up meat.
There aren't enough people to kill the turkeys and pluck the feathers out for Christmas, apparently. There aren't enough butchers. There's lots of jobs that are now in short supply.
Yes.
Or rather, there's a shortage of people that can do those jobs because, well, I don't know whether it's true or not, but because, of course, a lot of people used to come and work from Europe to the UK.
As butchers?
As all sorts of things. Well, I read about the butchers. They are going to try and get butchers from the Philippines.
Okay.
I read that this morning.
Maybe the president of the Philippines might come here because he likes getting hands-on. What I love about the Philippine president is he actually goes after all of the drug lords in person. I think the Philippine president is pretty cool. He's very badass, and he used to go after the drug lords himself. with his gun. No, it's true. It really happened. So maybe he can come here after he's retired and become the local butcher.
Yes, Lewis, I think we do have quite a... I think, there are problems certainly with HGV drivers all over Europe, but I don't think Europe's afflicted with so many shortages of different professions than we are, and I'm sure it probably is all related to the B word.
Yes.
No,
Bums?
B-R.
B-R?
E.
E.
There's an X in there as well.
What, Brenda? Brenda. She's lovely, Brenda. Leave Brenda alone. No, I don't think it's because of Brenda. She's a lovely lady, even though sometimes she wears very skimpy clothing, especially when she's bending over on a hot day.
I don't know what you're talking about. Household batteries are what we need in the future to store up energy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is true. I mean, if you've got solar panels
Oh, for God's sake.
on your roof, which I would love.
Here we go.
And I probably will one day. I'm waiting for the government to subsidise it.
Yes.
Of course, during the day when the sun's out,
This has nothing to do with panic.
you have a lot of surplus power.
Yes.
And if you can store it in a battery, then you can use that energy at night.
You're just talking like a person who's
Well,
wittering.
That's what Ricardo means.
Wittering.
Um,
We won't live long enough to see the returns. You have to buy solar panels when you're about 8 years old, because they take about 50 years to actually return the money to you. So,
it's not that long.
Okay. Well, it's no good to us because we will be dead before
no.
then. You see,
But you see, if the government subsidise it because they want to meet their climate targets,
okay.
we might end up getting them, whereby they're paid back in, say, 10 years.
Oh, fantastic!
In which case, I would be all in.
Fascinating.
Yes, Christina hints at or talks about the psychological background to what panic buying is all about.
Oh,
And I'm sure if we have a psychological expert watching today, we used to have one, didn't we?
you're a bit psycho.
Then you could probably explain it's that fear, the fear of missing out, the fear that it's irrational fear, isn't it?
Well, it's the fear of not having any food in your belly, because then you'll starve to death.
See, I thought people would not panic buy fuel because it would be a good excuse not to have to go to work.
But people want to go to work now because they're sick and tired. They're fed up. They're so angry and annoyed that they've had to spend 20 months with their partner. So they're doing anything now to get away. But people have been going to the garages and the petrol stations, and they've been using these little things. Can you see this, Steve? Look at that, a little jerry can. So this particular thing is called a jerry can, and this is a very safe way of storing petrol or anything that might go kaboom.
Well, that's I think the traditional jerry can is sort of made of metal, isn't it?
Yes, I know, but yeah, okay, Steve, good. So now give us 10 minutes of talking about the differences between this and a jerry can.
Well, I think the actual name jerry can comes from maybe the shape and the type of. But anyway, a petrol can, something to put petrol in.
So this is a safe way of storing petrol, and lots of people have been filling these up. Besides their car, they've also been filling these. However, there was one woman, a woman who was caught.
A person.
Wait, it was a woman.
I said that last week, and somebody said, "Oh, are you saying all women do things like that?" And
Well, I haven't said anything yet.
I know, but I got into trouble last week.
You've interrupted me before I've said anything. So there was a woman caught on video filling plastic bottles, drink bottles, with petrol, which, by the way, is the worst thing you can do because that type of container is not designed to hold petrol. In fact, the plastic will slowly dissolve, and she will have quite a mess to clear up afterwards. So lots of people have been filling these things.
Is that my petrol jerry can?
No.
It looks very much like it.
Yes, but it isn't.
I've got a green one.
Yeah. Well, yours isn't the only one that was made.
I know. I'm just wondering if you got it by taking a photograph of it.
There are literally millions of these.
Well, I know that.
And quite a few of them are now in the garages of people around the UK with... I wonder who has stored the most petrol in their house.
That would be interesting to
Maybe
know.
all around the house there are cupboards in the house, and inside there's petrol in every single container.
Well, actually, you see, people have been getting into arguments. Actually, fights have been breaking out.
Yes.
All sorts of things, because people have been filling their cars up and then also going into the boot of their car or the trunk, if anyone from America is watching, and getting all these petrol cans out and filling them up. But and a lot of people, on first sight, you would think, what a greedy person. They've just filled their tank up and then they are also filling up these cans. But as was explained to me yesterday by somebody on the television,
Because person, well, the TV was talking to you.
Yes,
It was saying, "Hello, Mr. Steve. This is the television."
somebody was doing this, and they said, "Look, don't get angry at me. I'm filling up these cans because my neighbour, who's elderly, or can't get out to the petrol station,
Yes.
so I'm filling up some cans for them, so helping other people, so not necessarily selfishly keeping it for themselves."
So
but-
she's too old to get petrol, but not too old to drive a car.
no, getting it for somebody else.
Yes,
This was a young person.
That's what I mean. The elderly person she was buying it for is too old to get petrol.
Well,
but not too old to drive a 2-ton vehicle.
Well, I mean, many elderly people drive, don't
Yes,
they?
but what would be stopping you from getting petrol?
Well, if you're 90, you don't want to be queuing for 2 hours
over. That's
stuck
a-
in a car because,
That's ageist.
you've got to go to the toilet. How are you going to go to the toilet every half an hour?
Well, you've got jerry cans. You could just have a pee into a jerry
Suppose you
can.
could- well, a man could. A man could.
I'm sure a woman could as well if she worked out.
Take a
You just
take a funnel with you.
lift yourself up slightly. I'm sure you can do it.
Talking of panic, Stefano said that they had a panic attack last week watching the stock exchange.
Oh, okay.
The stock markets.
Yeah.
Well, yes, they were. Yes, it looked like, because people have been warning for some time that there's going to be a massive stock market correction.
Yes.
And I thought last week, oh my goodness, it's happening.
All of your shares in condoms.
But thankfully, it's come back up a bit, hasn't it, Stefano? So,
Fortunately.
I feel that my pension feels a little safer. Right, yes, people are talking. Actually, now moving on to more like, you
What?
having a panic attack, Mr. Duncan?
Me? No.
People are now talking about sort of having panic attacks rather than just panicking about things.
Yes.
Um,
And many people can have panic attacks even if they're not worried about anything. So
at
you can have a
this.
perfectly calm life, but you can still get anxiety or panic attacks.
Wellington says that in Brazil, they're on the eve of having water shortages. Now, we wouldn't, being ignorant, we would never think of Brazil as being somewhere where you would ever have a water shortage.
Well, what do you think they're doing? They're just going to the Amazon and drinking from
Well,
that.
that's what we imagine.
With a giant-
Amazon forest,
Yes.
lots of rain.
Yes.
But I think since a lot of the forests have gone, you don't get so much rain because when the forests are gone, you don't get the moisture going up, forming the clouds, which makes the rain. So maybe that's got something to do with it.
You could just go to the Amazon
Wellington.
River with a giant straw and just... But you can't do that, you see, because the water is not the same. You need fresh, you need clean water.
A tank. Philippe asks about the word tank. A tank is a large container, isn't it?
Yes, normally.
That would be a water can. But a tank would normally be something much bigger that holds many hundreds of litres or
Yeah.
gallons.
That's it. So it has a much higher volume.
Yes.
It can hold much more.
Like a petrol tank. I can get 13 gallons into my petrol tank. How many litres is that?
I don't know. Does it have anything to do with
Is that
English?
50 litres? I don't know. I never know what the...
By the way, it's raining at the moment. Can you see behind us? So the weather has completely changed. When I started the live stream today, it was sunny, but now it's raining very heavily.
It's a good job I've covered up the areas of grouting that I have been doing outside.
Yes.
Did you know, Mr. Duncan, I was working hard in the garden in the hours leading up to your live stream?
Okay. So what do you want, a medal?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Do I have panic due to Bitcoin trading? Says Saturino.
No. Well, you don't have Bitcoin, so no, I can answer that question. No, not at all.
How do you know I don't?
Well, because you told me.
Oh, okay.
Unless you're a liar. But you would never lie to me, would you, Steve?
Never. Oh, no. There must be no secrets between couples. None. Move on, Mr. Duncan. What are we talking about next?
That was awkward. Well, I was talking earlier about quitting, knowing when to stop doing something. And I was also mentioning one of our favourite singers, Shirley Bassey. So we love Shirley Bassey very much. But about 3 or 4 years ago, she was performing on TV. I think it was one of these celebrity dancing contests. And she was on there as a guest. And she was singing live. And it wasn't very good. She was missing all of the notes and off key, all over the place, and it was really sad to watch. And we both thought the same thing. Why doesn't she just stop? Please, Shirley, don't push yourself. If you can't do it anymore, just quit. Just quit. You're not short of money. I'm pretty sure that Shirley Bassey has a lot of money. Yes. She lives in Monaco, in one of the swankiest places in the world. So I think, yes. So when is the right time to quit, Steve?
Well, I was reading, there were a lot of comments earlier about that, and I can't remember who said it now, but they said quit when you've lost the passion to do something. Of course, if your passion was your job, for example, and you loved your job, actually, Lewis mentioned that earlier, because didn't Lewis used to be a taxi driver?
Lewis was, yes, I think so.
And was that what you did for 33 years, Lewis?
Yes.
I read that here. Is that because you have mentioned before that you were a taxi driver, and said that he loved doing that job every day, never lost the passion for it. No. But of course, sometimes, particularly as somebody else pointed out, you might lose the passion for your job, but at the same time, you might have a wife or a husband to support and children. You might not. It might be a difficult option for you to give that job up because it's bringing money in.
Yes.
To to the home.
You might have no choice. You have to do it.
Yes,
even if you don't want to do it anymore. But yes, I find it quite interesting because we do sometimes see performers, they're still doing it. And you think that they should really have quit a long time ago. By the way, it's amazing to think of how many actors now are over 90. Did you know that Robert Wagner is 90?
Is he still alive?
Yes, Robert Wagner. He was a heartthrob many years ago. And he was involved in a little scandal concerning his then wife, Natalie Wood, when she mysteriously drowned. And there were certain allegations being passed around. But Robert Wagner is still alive and is 90. 90.
Wonder what he looks like now. Or if anybody watching the live stream knows who Robert Wagner is.
I'm sure a lot of people do. He was in a very famous TV programme called Heart to Heart many years ago with who was his wife in Heart to Heart, Steve?
Stephanie Powers.
Yes, well done.
I can't believe I got that.
My God.
It's watching Bullseye every night. My brain is sharper answering questions.
Steve's brain is getting better.
I don't know how I got that. It's, if you don't think about it, it just pops into your head sometimes. I'm usually very bad with... I'm worrying about the rain now, ruining my grouting.
Jerry Lee Lewis. Okay,
patio.
Steve, we don't care about your patio.
Well, I do.
Yes.
Because I just spent 2 hours doing it.
But we don't. Jerry Lee Lewis is still alive. I can't believe it. He's still going. Jerry Lee Lewis, you know, the piano player. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Great balls of fire.
Oh, that Jerry Lee Lewis, yes.
I've got great balls of fire. I should not stand so close to the...
Unusual for a rock singer.
Rock singer.
A rock artist to live for a long time.
Yes.
Maybe he never took drugs or anything.
Is it? Somebody said your mum. We're forgetting your mum.
What about my mum?
Your mother is still active.
Yeah, well, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Depends what you mean by active.
What do you call a person in their 90s? It's not a septuagenarian, that's 80. So what's 90?
Don't know.
If you are in your 90s, what are you? So an octogenarian Octogenarian is 80.
Is 8.
What's a septuagenarian?
70 maybe.
Yeah.
Or 60.
So what about 90?
90.
If you are over 90, between 90 and 100, what do we say you are? Besides,
if you're 100, then I was going to say centurion, but that's something else altogether. What's the word if you're 100? You're something in it, isn't there?
I think it is a centurion.
Because isn't a centurion like a Roman sort of soldier?
Yes, well, maybe.
I think there's another word for it.
If you're into that sort of thing.
But if you're 90, what Aryan are you? Is it? And I don't think there is one. There must be one.
This is going nowhere.
Yes.
So, Steve, we have to get back on track. I know it's very hard to do, but we need to get back on track because we have some phrases, some words, all to do with today's topic.
Yes, Lewis. Oh, yes.
Oh, no,
that's all right. Okay,
just ignore me, Steve.
Finance matters. Oh, I could look. It's really belting down outside.
Okay, Steve.
That's ruining everything.
Yes.
I put a cover. Anyway, right? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we playing the you know what game?
I wonder
today?
why no one watches anymore.
They are watching.
Well,
carry on, Mr. Duncan. Carry on.
The other week, Steve said to me, "You're supposed to be talking about words. You're supposed to be teaching English." Well, that's what I'm trying to do. But when Steve is here, he goes all over the place.
Well, you've just wasted 20 seconds explaining that.
Yes, but that was a good 20 seconds.
Nonagenarian, says Shirin. Thank you for that.
A nonagenarian.
Non for 9.
Interesting.
Nonagenarian. I was going to say that, of course. I just wanted to see if anybody else knew it.
You didn't know. So the word panic expresses the state of extreme emotional distress caused by an event. So quite often there is a reason. There is a reason for panic. And of course we gave some very good examples earlier about things that might cause you to suddenly panic. The state of extreme emotional distress caused by an event. A sudden or unexpected event might cause someone to panic. So quite often you might panic because of something happening that you weren't expecting. I suppose that's one way of putting it. Maybe something that came suddenly as a shock. The panic process is both emotional and also physical. So that, I suppose that's the reason why when you panic, it is such a devastating thing, because you're not just worrying here, but you're worrying all the way through your body. It is definitely emotional and also physical.
Do you mean the flight or fight response?
Yes,
kicks in.
We might mention
adrenaline.
that. We might mention that in a moment.
Okay.
A sudden reaction to a stressful situation might cause panic to occur in a person. So a sudden thing that you weren't expecting, and certainly something stressful. Panic can be brought on by a change of plan or a sudden event that was not expected, as I mentioned just now. You suddenly realise you are late for work. So that's a good one. So we have some examples now of what might say or what might cause you to become panicked by something. You suddenly realise you are late for work. Steve is always panicking because quite often you are late for things.
I don't, wouldn't say panic.
No, but
I get anxious.
Yes, which kind of might be
a sort of mild form of panic.
Yeah.
Yes.
You hear that there are some redundancies at work. You hear maybe you hear maybe that you might be losing your job in the future, so you start to worry about it. Maybe you've been caught, or you are caught doing something wrong.
Yes.
Maybe you are doing something in secret, and then you think, "Oh, I think they saw me. I think they know that I'm doing that." And so you start to panic because
Yes.
you are fearful of the
Consequences?
Yes. Fearful of the consequences.
Consequences.
What might happen? What will happen to me?
Maybe you send a text to somebody and then you realise you sent it to the wrong person.
Yes.
And what you said in that text, you do not want that other person to know about.
Yes. You might have said, "Dear sexy knickers, I love you very much. Every night when I'm in bed, I always think about you, your heaving bosom." And then you send it, but you've accidentally sent it to your mum.
Yes. Or your partner.
Yeah.
Or somebody else.
Or your mum.
We've all been there. We've all sent texts to the wrong people. And I keep phoning up the wrong person at the moment.
Do you? Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
Because I've got two friends, and then one is a man, one's a woman. They've both got the same surname, but the first names are very similar. So one is Andy, and the other one is Andrea.
Well, they're completely different
I
names.
know, but when you see it in your phone and the surname's the same, you know, A-N, and then, I keep dialing the wrong one. And then having to make excuses when I'm speaking to the wrong... "Oh, hello, how are you? Sorry, I didn't mean to call you."
Well,
it's happened twice.
I thought you were going to say that you just pretend that you meant to call them. "Oh, hello. Oh, that's Andrea. Oh, hi, how are you doing? I thought I'd just give you a call just to chat to you." So maybe you wouldn't admit to the fact that you made a mistake. So the last one, Steve, we can all relate to this one. You believe you are seriously ill. Maybe you have a little cough, or maybe a pain in a certain part of your body, or maybe something that doesn't feel right. And then you start to panic because you think something is wrong with you, something serious is going on inside your body. You might start to panic about that, which can happen. I think we all panic from time to time about our health. I think so. The physical response to panic is the release of adrenaline, which speeds up the heart rate. But also you might find that you will start to sweat, or maybe you will start to breathe very heavily. So when you panic, lots of other things happen. And the reason is because of something that your body produces called adrenaline, which allows you to get that extra boost of energy. It is something that exists in nature, and I suppose it's fair to say that it exists in many animals.
Yes, because 1,000 years ago or something, if you were living in Africa, or even in this country,
Yes.
Lots of dangerous wild animals roaming around the woods and the forests. We've killed them all off here, of course. We don't have wolves or bears, but we used to have them, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. You might see that animal coming towards you, and you panic. Adrenaline. Well, if you panic, you're probably dead. But the adrenaline surges through your body, and you run off.
Yes.
You've got that extra energy to escape from the danger.
So in nature, panic is the reaction to danger as it prepares the body for fight or flight, which is what you mentioned a few moments ago. So it is a natural occurrence. So we might think that panic is a human frailty, but in fact, all animals panic, and that is how they escape from predators. So the adrenaline will allow your body for those few moments to do something to escape the danger. So it does serve a purpose in the animal kingdom. Some people are more prone or susceptible to panic and often overreact to small things. So I think it would be fair to say that most of us panic from time to time, but some people panic all the time over everything. They might just find very small things a reason to panic. Maybe they go out of the house and they see the postman coming towards their house, but then suddenly you panic because you think, oh, maybe the postman is going to deliver a parcel and I won't be there. And so you will start to panic about it. But really, it's a very small thing it's not very important. And of course, people panicking over shortages.
Or what they perceive to be a shortage.
Mm.
And then they see other people doing it, and then they think, well, if other people are doing it, I probably should do it as well.
Mm.
Because if other people are going, if there are long, it's amazing actually the psychology of it. I don't understand it fully. But if you see a long line of people queuing for petrol, I think some primeval thing takes hold, and you think, well, if all those people are queuing for petrol, there must be a reason. They can't all be wrong. So I've got to do it as well. And you join the end of the queue because you just think, well, if they're all getting petrol, surely I've got to get some as well. And then it's like you start to follow the herd because you think that if everyone's doing it, they must be right.
Yes. Well, an interesting thing that I always observe with birds, if a bird panics, you will often find that other birds will panic as well. So maybe a bird thinks that there is a predator nearby, so they will make a call and they will fly off very quickly. And other birds will hear that and they will panic as well. So the panic is merely them getting out of the way in case there is a predator. But they are actually they're actually reacting to the other bird that is panicking. So there isn't a real danger. What they are actually reacting to is the sound that bird has made.
But of course, over millions of years of evolution, that might work out as quite a good survival strategy because it's predators. But in the modern world, it might be not a good reaction to have because we're not talking about flying off somewhere because there could be a danger of a predatory bird, and by the very act of the bird panicking and flying off and taking cover might save its life. But when people start to panic because they think there's a shortage of something that they probably don't really need anyway, then there's something else going on. It's like our primitive brains are still stuck in the past and we overreact to things. Actually, somebody made a very good comment here. We panic. Yes, Christina says we overreact when we're already stressed. Yeah, so if you're already in a heightened state of stress, you're much more likely to overreact to something else.
Yes.
And that's a very good point that you've made there, Christina.
Which, of course, is one of the reasons why stress is such a bad thing and should be avoided at all times.
Yes, if you were calm and rational at the time that this thing happened, whatever that thing is that causes you to panic, then you might just have time to just stop and think, well, actually, do I need to go out and buy some petrol? Well, no, I'm not planning to go anywhere, and I'm sure it'll all clear up in a couple of weeks' time.
So
which, of course, it has.
So you're talking about thinking rationally, the opposite feeling. So instead of overreacting, you actually do the opposite thing, and you will think rationally. You will use logic, and then you will not panic. It is possible to feel panic without there being a cause, as one or two people mentioned earlier.
Right.
So you can actually panic even though there is nothing to panic about. A person might have periods of extreme panic with no cause being present. This is a panic attack. And anxiety is another thing that can cause this. So maybe you have something that is bothering you in your subconscious, or it's in the back of your mind, and that thing starts to affect you physically. And that can lead to anxiety and also panic attacks, which is not something that is nice.
Yes, probably you've been in a constant state of heightened sort of anxiety, and then you start to react when there's actually nothing there to react to, and then it becomes a real problem. So yes, I mean, we don't, right. Carry on. I was going to say, I won't say that. What I was going to say then.
To force a person into doing something
Yes.
by using fear is to panic someone. And again, I think this is what we mentioned earlier about what the government said. So when the government said there might be problems with getting petrol or fuel to the petrol stations, but there is no need to panic.
Yeah.
That is what created the panic. So you might force someone, or you might cause a person to do something in a panic because you've told them something that makes them panic. So you can panic a person. You can cause panic. You cause that person to become worried, concerned, anxious suddenly.
Because people don't believe politicians anymore, because they've let us down a lot. And so whatever a politician says, we tend to take the opposite view quite often.
Yes, I think for many years there's been a distrust of politics, and that's probably one of the reasons why the whole subject has become so polarizing and in some cases quite stale as well. We have some synonyms of panic, which include alarm. You can alarm someone. You give them some news which makes them panic. Anguish. You cause anguish to someone. You create anxiety, or you have anxiety, a sudden dread or fear that causes you to feel panic. Apprehension. Oh, I like that word.
It's a good word.
Yes, a good word. It's one of the best. Apprehension is a word. So maybe you have a slight fear of something that's going to happen. You are worried about an event or something that may or may not happen. You suddenly start to panic.
It's sort of apprehension, sort of a temporary, sort of mild, panicky feeling about some event that could be coming up. So you might have a job interview and you might say, oh, I feel a bit apprehensive about this. So you're not in full-blown panic mode.
No.
You're just feeling a little anxious, apprehensive. You're not looking forward to what's going to take place, like the job interview.
Yes.
Or you could be about to perform on stage, or do a speech, give a speech at work. Apprehensive. You're not looking forward to something, but at the same time you're not in a real panic mode.
Distress is another one. So distress, if a person feels distressed, it means maybe they are upset or they are panicking. So you might say that the feeling of being upset or emotionally upset is very similar to panic. So you have distress, or maybe you cause distress to someone. You make them feel upset, or you make them panic. Dread. So dread is very similar to apprehension. Apprehension, dread, something that you don't want to do or you feel bad about doing in the future.
I'm dreading going to work tomorrow morning.
I know you are.
You could say I'm dreading going to work because, the boss is going to be there and he's going to tell us that we've got to do this and do that. I'm just dreading it, and that horrible person that I hate is going to be there as well.
Fright as well. Fright. So the fright is the thing that you suddenly find out, or something that happens that makes you panic. You have fright. Horror is another one. Horror. You feel horror. It is the same feeling you have in your stomach, the same feeling that might make you feel as if you are going to panic or lose control of your emotions. Shock is another one. You hear something you weren't expecting to hear. It makes you panic. And we have terror as well. So the terror can be the thing that suddenly makes you worried, afraid, fearful, or something that makes you panic. Panic can be used as both a noun and a verb. There is panic. So maybe in a certain place there is panic. Or you can panic. So panic is actually the action, but also it describes the action as a noun as well. And the word panic derives from Greek. and is coined from the ancient nature god named Pan.
How fascinating.
Did you know that?
I didn't.
Because it was in folklore that when people heard sounds in the forest, they actually thought it was Pan walking around with his 4 legs.
Oh.
Because, of course, Pan was a combination of more than one animal, including a person.
And what was if he was walking around,
People
would you be in fear?
Yes.
Right, okay.
And there we go with panic. That's why we call it panic.
Saturino mentions that in 1938, on a radio show in America, there wasn't that Orson Welles.
It was Orson Welles.
Reading about Martians invading.
Yes, War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. And he just read this story, and it was so convincing to people.
Well, it wasn't. They didn't read the story. They
were listening to the story. He read the story out, didn't he?
No, they acted it.
It was on the radio. Oh, it was on the radio. Yeah, okay, that's what I mean. There was a story, and it was on the radio. It was being told on the radio.
No, it wasn't even being told as a story. It was actually.
You're being pedantic, Mr. Duncan.
Well, I'm trying to tell you why people panicked. It was actually
because they thought there was an alien invasion.
Yes,
because of the way they portrayed it.
Yes, it was done as a news broadcast.
Yes,
it was done as if the news was interrupting.
Wasn't going into that much detail, but never mind.
No, well,
yes, they did, and people thought that it was an actual alien invasion.
Yes, but that's a useful thing to mention because of the way it was done. And we had a similar thing here happen in the UK. Do you remember, Steve?
When was that?
In the 1980s, there was a TV show that was all about ghosts. And it wasn't actually a real live broadcast. It was actually a play that had been made. But it was so realistic, people believed it was real. They believed that these strange events, these ghostly events, were really happening there and then. And lots of people went into a panic. It caused some people to have panic attacks. Some people called the BBC to complain. In fact, thousands of people did, and it broke their switchboard. But the whole thing was fake. But it caused such an outrage afterwards.
Flower uses the word dread in a sentence. I'm dreading going to the hospital to visit my cousin. Yes, because you might be, when you go to visit someone who's ill in hospital, you might well dread it because you don't know how to react sometimes. You don't want to see somebody you know ill, and you don't know what to say sometimes as well. So yes, that's a very good use of the word. So yes. Thank you very much for that.
The opposite of panic is calm or self-control. So if you don't panic, it means you stay calm. You can say, I stayed calm. I did not panic. Or you can have self-control. You keep your self-control. You don't panic. So the opposite of panic is calm or self-control.
And somebody mentioned earlier that you can use sort of relaxation techniques like meditation to help with sort of that type of thing too. Oh, there we go, Stefano. Meditation can help to overcome panic attacks. And Tomek mentions that we often panic because we're not fully aware of all the facts, the big picture. We don't know everything that's going on.
Yes.
Whereas if everybody understood, for example, about the petrol, that there wasn't actually a shortage of fuel, petrol and diesel, it was just getting it to the pumps. And yes, there might have been little bits of disruption here and there, but now we've got disruption everywhere because people panicked. And if everybody just understood that, they might not have panicked.
But isn't this one of the big failings of humanity, is quite often we misunderstand something, or maybe we are ignorant of the actual situation. So this happens a lot. People quite often jump to the wrong conclusion, and that can cause panic. There is a great word coming up, Steve, that describes this really well. It's coming up in a few moments. So people have been panicking over food shortages That is a sentence that you might hear. There is no need to panic. This is the worst thing you can say. If anyone ever says to you, there is no need to panic, I can guarantee that that person will start to panic.
Particularly if they are somebody like a politician, who have got they're in charge of things. So yes, nobody believes a politician.
So you said...
well, Flyaway, interestingly enough, says, why do the Brits have self-control? Well, I don't think we do anymore.
No, not as much as we used to. We used to be very stoic. We used to think of the British as being stoic.
And having a stiff upper lip.
Yes.
We would always be calm no matter what was happening.
We can always face adversity.
That was always the way that British people were perceived as. Maybe we were 100 years ago. I don't think we are now.
Well, I was going to say much more recent than that, the Second World War. The Second World War, they called it the bulldog spirit. It's a great expression, and it describes that British stoicism.
Yes.
The British bulldog spirit. And that's the reason why Winston Churchill is often associated with a British bulldog. It's quite strange, but it's true. I think he also had one as well as a pet.
Yeah, so yes, traditionally we are thought of as being calm and not letting events around the world or anything. There's a famous Carry On film, isn't there?
Okay.
If anybody knows Carry On films, if you want to really see what we mean by this sort of British people just staying calm and not reacting to what's going on. I think it's Carry On Up the Khyber, and there's a scene where there's all these sort of high-class British people all having a meal in this expensive house, and they're being bombed and attacked by an army.
Yeah, it's good this.
And the ceiling's caving in, the windows are caving in. There's an orchestra playing, and no matter what happens in that room, they all just sort of laugh it off as though nothing's happening. So that's a very funny scene.
Well, in fact, they ignore what's happening.
They just ignore what's happening.
They just carry on eating their meal as the whole building around them is being destroyed.
Oh, what's that noise? Doesn't matter. Do you fancy any soup?
Yes.
And there's one man there wondering why, thinking that they're all completely mad.
Yes.
But yes.
Good. I'm glad that we could spend an hour explaining what a Carry On film
was
is.
Was it Carry On Up the Khyber?
I think it was, yes. Anyway, the phrase panic stations means a moment when action must be taken immediately. A moment of panic, a moment when action must be taken, and quite often we will use that phrase, panic stations. It was all panic stations. And we use this only in British English. I don't think it's used in American English, but it is used in British English quite often. Panic stations. when something happens and you have to deal with it straight away. The arrival of the boss caused everyone to go into panic stations.
Yes.
Everyone started to run around and panic because they knew that the boss was coming. They had to take some action. Well, sorry, Steve?
Engine TV says, what's Mr. Duncan's main job? This is Mr. Duncan's main job. He is an English teacher on YouTube.
This is what I do. Can you believe it? 15 years I've been doing this.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, this month I'm celebrating my 15th year on YouTube, and I'm with you every day from Monday to Friday and also Sunday from 2 p.m. UK time, which means I am with you tomorrow from 2 p.m. as we continue our special season of live streams. Very nice. Panic buying. So here are some phrases and expressions that we can use to describe panic. Panic buying, as we mentioned earlier. Panic selling. So maybe on the stock market,
Yes.
if suddenly everything starts to sink, all of the shares or the values start to sink, everyone will suddenly start panicking and they will sell quickly before it all drops.
They want to keep their profits.
Yes, panic selling, which of course quite often leads to all sorts of misery. Panic button, the panic button. We can use this figuratively. So you don't actually have to have a panic button, but you can say, is it time to hit the panic button? But it isn't a real panic button. What we are actually saying is it time to start panicking?
It's a figurative, isn't it?
Yes.
There isn't a literal panic button, but it's just a phrase to indicate that panic is about to start.
You might lose your head because you panic so much. You lose your mind, you lose your head. What's going on? Oh my goodness, I've got to do all these things. Oh no, I can't do them. I can't do them all today. There isn't enough time.
And what it means is you
lose your head.
You've lost your rational way of thinking. Your head is just reacting in a primitive way to something.
You might go into a flap. You go into a flap.
Yes.
So maybe a person might suddenly panic over something. You go into a flap over something.
Probably over something that isn't worth panicking about. For being late for work maybe, or something you can't get the dress that you want, or you can't get the right size shoes, and you start to go, oh, but I've got this wedding in a week's time and I can't find the right dress, I can't find the right suit. You're going into a flap because it means your arms are probably waving around and you're flapping your arms around. That's what it means. There's a physical, if you see somebody sort of, I don't know what to do, you can say, don't go into a flap.
So imagine a bird. Imagine a bird panicking in its wings or flapping everywhere. Go into a flap. And the final one, I like this one, to run around like a headless chicken.
Yes.
A chicken that has lost its head. But there is a belief, I've never seen it happen. I just have to make that clear. I've never seen it happen. But apparently if you cut the head of a chicken, its body will run around for a few moments.
In a random... I would imagine it's panicking.
Yeah, well...
If somebody had chopped off your head.
I'm not sure if it's panicking because its head is gone.
Yes, but that is used, isn't it, as a synonym for panic.
Yes.
If you're sort of running around in a random way, it's imitating what a chicken does when you chop its head off.
We assume.
Apparently.
We've never seen it. I've never seen what happens when you chop a chicken's head off and it's still alive. I don't know. I've never seen it. I imagine it's not much fun. They say the same thing about people as well, apparently. Apparently the head is still alive for a few seconds.
Well, anyway. Tomek says he's been following you for 11 years.
11 years, Tomek.
Time flies.
Thank you. I can't believe it.
And we've enjoyed your company, as have many people who have been with us for a long period of time.
I appreciate everyone, whether you've just joined me, maybe you've just subscribed, or you've been subscribing since 2006 when I first started.
And Lewis then says, well, that's why your English is so good, Tomek, because you've been listening to Mr. Duncan teaching for 11 years.
I take that as a compliment.
Thank you very much.
So those are some phrases we can use to describe the situation of being in a panic. A nervous person or someone highly strung. I like this expression, by the way. I love this. Highly strung is a person who gets upset and easily upset or they panic very easily.
Yes, they're always sort of on edge a bit.
Highly strung.
People used to say I was highly strung.
I think you still are.
That's something else. By the way, we've had a nice You've had a nice donation, Mr. Duncan, and the word cool.
Hello, Anita, with your super emoji. Yes, a little cool.
Portillo.
It looks like I know what that's a reference to. I bet
Yes.
that's a reference to my health regime. I think so, because it looks as if the little emoji has just finished doing some exercise and they are out of breath.
Or is it the opposite of panic, which is being cool?
Ah, interesting. Thank you,
Cool.
Anita Portillo. Thank you very much for your donation.
You're not married to a famous ex-politician, are you, who travels the world making TV shows in trains?
Me?
No,
Oh, I thought you were talking to me.
Anita. We've got an ex-politician, haven't we, called Michael Portillo,
Yes.
who makes very good programmes as he travels the world at the BBC's expense, in making television programmes.
I don't
So I'm
like.
just wondering whether you're-
I don't like him because he was
Well,
one of.
actually, be careful what you say in
He
case
was-
Anita is married to him.
Yeah, but he was one of Thatcher's cronies.
Wow.
I don't like him.
Well, if you
But it's true. I'm just saying what I thought. Yes, I don't think he's related.
just making that point, let's hope that Anita is not married to that person.
Yeah,
Otherwise, they might retract the donation. Is that possible? Can you do that? Or is it too late?
I don't know. Well, now you've mentioned it. It's great, Steve. It's a good idea. Thank you for introducing that idea, Steve.
Belarus is having souffle. That's very posh.
Souffle. I went to school with her. She was a lovely girl. Souffle.
Belarus is going because she's cooking. Souffle, that's very difficult to cook. I'm very impressed, Belarusia. I hope you didn't open the oven door while it was cooking.
Oh yes, because then it will sink. If you open the door too quickly, the souffle will.
So we are told.
Yes.
But that's, yes.
So to be highly strung means that you often overreact to things. You will react far too much to things. And here's a finer one, Steve. I want to show this because when more than one person becomes in a state of panic or they start to panic, we can say hysteria.
It's a good one.
I think this is a brilliant word. So you might say during the recent panic where people were rushing out to buy petrol for their car, you might describe it as hysteria.
Yes.
Wild panic over something, often affecting more than one person. So people will suddenly, in large groups, start to panic. We have hysteria. And maybe one group of people will see another group of people panicking, and then they will begin to panic. So hysteria is a kind of mass panic. Think of lots of people panicking at the same time. We often call it mass hysteria.
Yes. And that can affect people, can affect large groups of people. And often people will say to people they know, maybe wives will say it to their husbands or vice versa, if they're starting to get into a bit of a state of panic, oh, stop being so hysterical. Maybe somebody overreacts to something.
Maybe your girlfriend is crying.
Or
She's
maybe-
crying because she can't go to the party tonight because she hasn't got any nice shoes to wear. And she, I can't go to the party tonight because I haven't got any shoes to wear.
Oh, stop being so hysterical.
So there.
Yes, that's what you could say. Instead of, don't go into a panic, stop being so hysterical is a common phrase to use to somebody that you know quite well, I think. I think would be safe to say.
I can't believe I just did that.
Oh yes, Tom rocks.
Hello, Tom.
Do you? Oh, R-O-X, not R-O-C-K. Tom rocks. He rocks.
Okay.
That's quite good, that.
That's
I
good.
think that means yes.
Esther?
If somebody rocks, it means they're really hip and trendy and everyone wants to be around them. Do you know who was your very first subscriber?
I don't.
Wow.
I have no idea because at the time I was in China and I was incredibly busy with my work, working in not just one but two schools, and also they used to drive me all over the place to visit other schools as well. So I spent most of my time teaching, but I discovered YouTube by chance whilst I was still working in China. But that, as they say, is a story for another day.
That's been told many times. Right now, according to Palmyra, Hysteria is an ancient goddess.
Probably is.
You'll be right.
You'll be amazed how many emotional responses are actually connected to ancient mythology.
Make a scene. Yes, if you make a scene, that's not necessarily panic or hysteria. It could be. Yes, you could. If you make a scene, it means that you're reacting to something in a very public way so that lots of other people see you doing it.
Yes.
So you could be angry about something and start shouting and screaming at somebody in the pub or at work. Everybody can see it, and it's quite a scene. In other words, people are a little embarrassed by it.
Yes.
And it's not normally what happens. You could be in a state of panic or hysteria, and to the extent that when you're in public somewhere, you display all these symptoms of panic, and people will go, he or she, that was quite a scene, wasn't it?
Yeah, she caused a scene.
Or he caused a scene.
She created quite a commotion.
Or he.
Yes, or he. She, he,
a scene
they,
or a commotion.
them, it.
But yes, the scene could be one due to hysteria or panic. Collective can we use the phrase collective panic?
Yes, we can. Yes. Anything that affects more than one person or a group of people in one particular place or area, collective, yes.
Could you use that as a synonym with hysteria then?
You could.
Yes.
Collective panic. So collective just means more than one. So things that are grouped together. So a group of people panicking, you could describe as collective panic or hysteria. Yes.
Melodramatic.
Oh.
Yes, that's a good phrase.
Yes. That is to overact. You are doing it too much.
It's not a synonym of panic as such. No. It's just when somebody... Yes, because if somebody's panicking, they're not conscious of what they're doing. Yeah. Whereas if you're being melodramatic, you're probably deliberately, oh dear, what am I going to do?
I don't think you're doing that. Unless you're in a 1920s play.
I know, but I'm just showing an example, Mr. Duncan.
Yes, it's just overreacting to things.
Overacting.
Overreacting.
And you're doing it in a conscious way. You're doing it, you're deliberately doing it. You know what you're doing.
Yes.
Whereas when you're panicking, you probably don't know what you're doing.
Generally speaking, it means overreact.
Yes.
I think that's almost it. I can't believe it. I can't believe we've done 2 hours.
Again. 2 hours?
Well, that's what I just said. 2 hours we've been on for. I hope you've enjoyed today's live stream. It's been...
Not really. Oh, yes.
Okay.
You were asking other people.
I was asking... Well, it was general.
Yes.
General. Rhetorical. It was a rhetorical question.
Valentina says, "Don't panic" is a scene from the film Airplane.
Yes.
And there was a famous comedy show called Dad's Army in which one of the characters... says, "Don't panic, don't panic,
don't panic, Mr. Mannering, don't panic, Mr. Mannering."
And he's saying it, and he's actually panicking, and he's telling other people not to panic. So that's why it's funny.
That's why it's funny, because he is panicking whilst telling people not to panic. Don't forget, whatever happens in your life, any surprises that come along, Steve, remember, don't panic. What are we going to do? Oh, my God. I can't make it stop.
I'm panicking because it's the end of the live show.
I couldn't make that stop then.
Were you actually panicking because you didn't know how to make the panic sign disappear?
I couldn't stop it then. I started to panic. That was genuine panic. Because I thought... I can't find the button to stop.
False alarm. So shall I go off into the kitchen and put the kettle on?
Go off into the sunset, like John Wayne.
And but I don't know. Have we got any tea bags left, Mr. Duncan? I'm not sure. I think there's only a few left. What are we going to do if we haven't got enough tea bags, Mr. Duncan? What about sugar for you? I think we're out of sugar. Oh no, I mustn't panic.
Don't panic.
I'm getting into a flap.
Calm
I'm
down.
getting into a flap.
That's it.
Over nothing.
Don't lose your head.
Right, I'm going to put my red pen down for this week.
That's it.
It will reappear next week. Maybe I can have a different coloured pen every week.
See this? What? I can make this pen bend.
Well, you thought you could, but it didn't quite work out.
I used to love this at school. It's bending.
I think you've lost the skill, Mr. Duncan.
No, it's bending. Look, you can do that.
Anyway, what's that got to do with panicking? Lovely to be here. Lovely to be with you, Mr. Duncan. Lovely to be with you, you wonderful viewers, in this fabulous community. I love it. I love coming on, Mr. Duncan. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week.
Next week. Thank you, Mr. Steve. It's been enjoyable. It's been an education. Well, it's certainly taught me a lesson.
Are you going to fade me away? I was waiting for you to fade me away in a professional manner.
Yes. Bye. It's gone. Steve's gone. That was Mr. Steve, and he is with us every Sunday from 2 p.m. UK time is when you can find Mr. Steve and myself. But for this month, don't forget, during October, also Monday to Friday from 2 p.m. UK time, I am doing some little live streams. I am calling them my English Addict Quick Fix. So just a little bit of English, just a little bit of live, and just a little bit of me. From Monday to Friday from 2 p.m. UK time. So I hope you will join me during the week. And of course, I will be back with you next Sunday as well. Mr. Steve joining us next week as well, next Sunday. So Monday to Friday, I am with you, but only short live streams. They won't be 2 hours. They will be around half an hour to maybe 40 minutes. That is it. It is time to say goodbye. I hope you have enjoyed it. One thing I should mention first is the live streams during the week will only be for subscribers. So if you are subscribed, it means you can join in on the live chat. But if you are not subscribed, then you won't be able to join in. So my suggestion, and I'm sure you know what I'm going to say, is to subscribe. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then you will be able to join in from Monday to Friday. I know what you're going to say, Mr. Duncan, it's very unfair, but I'm doing this as a big thank you to all those who have subscribed over the years. So if you want to join in, you can. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying you are not welcome. You can join in, subscribe, join me tomorrow from 2 p.m. UK time, and I will be with you. So don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, do it. And then you will never miss anything that happens ever again on my YouTube channel. Thanks a lot for joining me today. See you tomorrow. It seems very strange saying that. It feels very weird saying see you tomorrow, but I will be with you tomorrow from 2 p.m. UK time as the rain begins to fall once more. This is Mr. Duncan in the birthplace of English saying thanks for watching. See you tomorrow, 2 p.m. UK time. Don't forget, subscribe and also like as well if you've liked this today. And of course, you know what's coming next. Yes, you do. Ta-ta for now. See you tomorrow.